Assalamu alaikum. My name is Tayyaba Syed, and I am a children's author and freelance journalist from Chicago. Welcome to the Muslimah Writers Journey Online Summit. I am so grateful to be here with you on this path to bringing your voice and your narrative onto the literary landscape. Now, what I want to share with you is how do you find the writer within you? Is there a writer within you? How do you even know? How do you even find the confidence to share your voice and your stories and your experiences with the world? And I hope that after you sit here with me for a few minutes, you are able to find that writer within you and go out there and share your stories and experiences with the world. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First thing I want to say is that this idea of, well, am I even qualified to be a writer? And why would anybody even care what I have to say, or what my opinion may be, or what my experiences may be, or what stories I have to share? Why would they even matter? And that is the very first thing that I want you to be able to realize, is that each of us was created differently, and that's the beauty in our being created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that He created each of us differently. My voice is not the same as yours. I don't look the same as any of you. And yet, each of us was not created in vain. We're all here for a reason. Our differences are what makes us special and beautiful. Just as that is important, so is our voices and our stories and our experiences. They do matter. Your voice matters. And this is why it's important for us to feel comfortable sharing our stories and finding that confidence to be able to write. Where does that even begin? How do you even find that? Well, you say to yourself, I'm not really a writer. I'm not good at writing. One of the things I always tell people is that writing is not a skill that you're born with, and it's not something that we all come out knowing how to do. It's a skill that's developed. If I was to go onto, let's say, a tennis court and be expected to hit that ball with my racket back and forth without making a fool out of myself, and I don't play tennis, so it's going to be ugly seeing me out there on a tennis court, because I have no experience, I have no practice, and that is one of the things that's very important. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't eventually become a good tennis player. If we put enough effort into something, to learn it, to practice it, then we can definitely become qualified in that specific field. And so, same thing with writing. I believe that more than a skill, it's an effort. And the more effort you put into it, the more practice you put into it, the better you'll become at it. So any opportunity you get to write. And if that means that you are journaling every single day before you go to bed, or if that means that you find different opportunities to be able to write for blogs or start your own blog, do that. Be able to get practice to be writing every day, so that you can feel confident that your writing is worth something and is worth putting out there. The second thing that I always tell people, that if you want to be a good writer, you need to be an even better reader. You can't tell me that I love to write but I hate to read. That's not possible. Those two things go hand in hand, and the more you read, the better writer you will become. So pick up as many books. Make yourself a timeline that I'd like to read maybe one book a week or one book every two weeks, and get yourself reading, even if that means you're reading a chapter or two a day or something of that sort. But at least you're reading. Because the more you read, it helps you develop your vocabulary. It helps you learn all the different styles of genres that are out there. Don't just pick up, oh, I like mystery, so I'm only going to read mystery books. Read all types of different genre so that you can see what interests you most and where you could potentially contribute to with genre eventually. And you also learn people's writing styles. You find lots of inspiration through reading. They could be nonfiction books. A lot of my inspiration for my stories comes through nonfiction literature. They're based on real people, real stories, real experiences. And that is actually a great way for you to be able to find inspiration is through nonfiction literature. It helps you find, different formatting and improve your grammar. And all of these things add up when you sit down to write because you have familiarized yourself with the art. And it's really important for you to be able to, you might actually find a book that you say, gosh, this was an awful book. I can write a better book than that. So do it. A lot of these stories and books that are being published are just retellings of other stories, of folk tales, of the same stories just redone. And so if you feel like you can tell a story better, so do it. And that is the great thing, is that you might even find inspiration in a bad book. But if you're not reading, you won't even be able to do that. Another important thing is that if you want to be a good writer, you need to be a good listener. If you're a good listener, you're paying attention. You're paying attention to details. You are able to then describe what you hear in your writing. For example, if I wanted to take the time of day, and let's say I'm comparing daytime to nighttime. I'm mentioning daytime, I would say, I woke up, and I won't mention the time of day it is. I could say, I woke up to the sounds of cars honking and children playing and birds chirping. That describes most likely that you are waking up in the morning in the earlier part of the day. Now, if I say, I woke up to silence, or I woke up to the sound of crickets, or the hooting of owls, or, my father snoring. So then you would know, oh, most likely this character is waking up during the nighttime. And you're able to tell that to your reader just based on your description of the time that you're describing. You didn't actually mention the time. And that comes with being able to listen and pay attention to sounds. And also, when you listen, you end up being more understanding of people. It's not just about she said this and she said that and he said this and he said that. It's about being able to listen to what they're feeling and then describe it through your writing and say, she sighed, or she whispered, or she, describing the tone of voice that somebody uses, when you're talking in dialogue in your writing. All of that comes through being a good listener and then being able to describe that in your writing. And another thing I recommend is to be very observant in everything you do during the day. How does the wind blow? How do leaves fall from a tree? Do they fall, or do they sway their way down, twirl their way down, dance their way down? How do children fight? They don't fight with words, they fight with gestures. When I do these writing workshops for youth, I tell them, I'm very observant, and I can tell who's bored, who's listening, who's tired, who's hungry, whose back is hurting. who's paying attention, like all of these things. Of course, these kids aren't talking, but I can recognize all of that just based on their body language. So that, if you are observant, you can pay attention to those things. How does a bird fly? How do people stand or walk or interact? All of these things you're able to put in your writing. And it really helps us take time to pause and reflect on our surroundings. And that all of that we can then incorporate into our writing as well. So those are some things that I recommend on improving yourself as a writer. Now, how do you get yourself into writing? That's another thing. It's like, okay, well, now I think I'm comfortable to write, but what do I write about? How do I even get started? And an important thing to know is who is your audience? Sit down and really ask yourself, what is my intention? What is my purpose? Every time I write, one of the reasons that I began writing, and I've been writing professionally since college, is I want to be able to present this beautiful religion of Islam in a positive way through my writing. And that is always my intention when I sit down to write, is I want to be able to show people the beauty of our religion. And one of the first things that I began writing about was family, because that's important to me, and faith, and marriage, and food, because who doesn't love food? But those are the things that I felt comfortable writing about. I studied biology, so I was comfortable writing about health and about the body. And so, what interests you? What do you feel comfortable talking about? You don't necessarily need to be an expert, but your experiences make you an expert. So we shouldn't be shy about sharing them. So you can first ask yourself, who is my audience? Who do I want to touch with my words? Who do I want to reach with my words? That will help bring focus and direction to your writing. That way you're not writing all over the place and on all these different topics. Another thing is to be authentic. Be unapologetically you. Don't write what you think people want to read. Don't write what you think others are talking about. Write what is important to you. Write what is meaningful to you. And when you do that, when you put your heart and soul into your writing, when you are passionate about what you write about, when you are authentic, you're not projecting your worldview on others. You're just talking about yourself and who you are. When you do that with sincerity and authenticity, your readers will sense it and they will feel it. And if you love what you're writing, your readers will love it too. And you can feel that through the writer's words. You can feel what they meant through their words. And that's one of the beautiful things about writing. And it's also important to make sure that your writing has flow. Your writing has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Even if that is a simple 5-paragraph essay. But it's important to keep a nice, compact format to your writing and a rhythm to your writing, so the reader starts from the beginning and goes all the way to the end, because you've kept the reader engaged. So those are a few starting points to finding that writer in you. The main thing to know is that there is a writer in you, and you have to be able to get over this potential fear of, my writing is not good. All of us feel that way. It's like making a meal and serving it and hoping that your guests will enjoy it. It's the same thing. You're putting a piece of yourself out there when you put your writing out there. But when you do it from the heart, when you do it with sincerity, your readers will feel it and they will enjoy it. And you need to be aware of this gift that God has given us of imagination and being able to share our stories and our experiences. They're important. How else are we going to learn about each other? How else are we going to be able to connect with each other? How else are we going to be able to understand each other if we are not the ones that are sharing our stories? So I thank you for joining me during this fun journey of writing, this crazy journey of writing, this very scary journey of writing. But know that you belong on this journey and you're meant to be here. And you are somebody whose story matters. And I can't wait to see what you put out there. And I look forward to seeing your work out there, and know that if you ever need me, you can find me on any of my social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, as Tayyaba Writes, and you can find a lot of resources and information on my website, tayyabasyed.com, where I give more advice and insight into this crazy world of writing. And I thank the Muslimah Writers Journey Online Summit for including me, and I want to ask each of you to keep me in your du'as, as I will of you, that Allah accepts us, our writing, for His great work. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.